You know when they used to say to us, when you take this course, you're gonna come back to practice with a new set of eyes. Remember that? And I never knew what that meant. But really, you come back to practice with a new set of eyes because you can't unsee what you've learned. And for me, that transition from single tooth dentistry to be able to view a patient comprehensively and have those conversations with them was the absolute biggest game changer in practice.
Yeah, Nada, I feel like you make an excellent point with you get a new set of eyes, but for me it was also learning like a new set of words almost to say to the patient, forever, every time we see you, we'd pick out a tooth or talk about this one tooth, but now, what if we step back and look at, all of your teeth, how they fit together, how they affect your smile, how they affect the way your muscles work together, and everything is in harmony, and that is when really it starts to change, because we have a new set of eyes, and that may be, it may be a new patient that no one's ever told them that, or it could be a patient that, last time we saw them, I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't know to even, bring up, we keep fixing broken teeth. Maybe we talk about something different,
And I think it's a great point, but I think to talk about something different, you have to know different, and you need to know more. And for me, I think the biggest game changer for my practice was when I realized how much I don't know. And taking these classes, you want to be like these amazing speakers that know everything, but you have to realize that it took them so long to get there. And you have to continue your educational process, and you have to continue learning and not expect to get back to your office and be able to implement 100% of everything you just learned, but take a little bit of it, start using that, grow on that, see what other aspects of dentistry you don't understand, take more classes, and continue the process and continue improving yourself and set goals for yourself to achieve better dentistry for your patients.
Yeah, I would say that, just like what you're saying, the question I would have is so you didn't have the expectation of doing a full mouth reconstruction from one weekend seminar, right?
Yes.
I think that's an important factor as well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. As you can imagine.
Yeah.
Yep. And I feel like we're all on this journey together, and at no point do any of us ever feel like we know everything, because we continue to learn, especially from each other. And I love the fact that, as a group, I can feel so honest and comfortable speaking with you guys about questions that I have in my own practice, whereas in other places I would feel less comfortable interjecting with a question that I may have, because I feel like this is a great safe place, and I feel like we've really created that with Clinical Mastery, where I can come with concerns, and dentists can come with concerns, and that they're treated in a way where they still feel really great about themselves, and I think that's the best way to grow. My first interest was always in aesthetics. Graduating a couple years out of school, I was interested in aesthetics, and the problem with me being interested in aesthetics at that time was I was very reactive to occlusion, because I wanted to be able to do the best thing for my patient. As you were saying, I want to be able to do the best thing I can for my patient, but at that same point in time, I was I had to take into account that what I wanted to do needed to last a long time. So I was really picking materials that were strong enough in a certain situation, but it might not have been the most aesthetic thing. When I had just gotten out of school, I was using a material called Procera, which is an aluminum oxide ceramic, and I picked it because it was white, but also because it was stronger than a typical silicate-based all ceramic. So I thought if I did something like this, it's going to last longer in this patient's mouth. And I didn't know enough about occlusion, so I had to pick things that were strong. But I was torn inside because I wanted to be able to do the best thing for my patient, especially aesthetically, because that's what I love to do. And it wasn't until I got educated in occlusion, that I was able to offer the best thing for my patients in terms of aesthetics. And so after if you're traveling all around the country and you're learning all these aesthetic principles, smile design, and you're learning how to make it look so good. And then you get back to your practice and you see patients on Monday morning, you're like, I want to do this case on you, but I don't feel comfortable that it's going to last in your mouth. And then you'll fall back into your old ways. Well, let's just use full contour zirconia in this case. Let's just pick materials that are stronger because I don't feel comfortable treating you. But again, that's not doing the best thing I could for my patients. So in order for me to take it to the next level, in order for us to go to the next level, it's about understanding occlusion. And I think that's what we do a really good job with as a group, is that we're aesthetically driven as a group. And I don't think I could align myself with a group that wasn't aesthetically driven in the same way that we are. So it's one of the things that I really love most about us.
I would love to add to that. I feel like you said, Jason, that a lot of this has to do with fear. You know, as dentists, we're all afraid to fail. And I think Clinical Mastery did a great job of creating a safe place. So you go home and you're comfortable saying, you know what, I'm gonna treat this case. I'm not afraid to use zirconia or whatever it is you are using. I feel comfortable making something look beautiful, and I know it's gonna last because you trust the process and you know you're learning how to do things safely. Same thing with your team. You go home and say, you know what, now I'm confident talking to my team about it, you know, and creating that safe environment when you go back to your practice so that they kind of live the same dream that you're looking to do.
To that point, you know, feeling empowered with the information that you gain and that you've gained through this process and through the mentorship and the camaraderie, the sense of community that we have. You know, you feel empowered when your patient, you know, comes in and they're in pain or they're not comfortable with something or something isn't right and they've been in this long journey of, you know, never getting a solution or coming up with a plan. And you have that basis where you can come together.
There was a moment when a light bulb went off for me that occlusion obviously is important with aesthetics. But I had to admit to myself that there was a big piece missing in my own knowledge of occlusion. And one of the great things I loved about CMS was it broke down that occlusion piece and really simplified something for me, because deep down I knew there was something missing in my occlusion knowledge, but I was almost afraid to admit it. So it was great for a simplified explanation of occlusion and feeling confident as I talked to my patients about it.
And how occlusion comes into everything. Once you realize that, and when you're doing an aesthetic case or you're helping somebody who's in pain, you know, you realize how much that knowledge transfers and sprinkles into everything that you're doing.
Can I add to that? I remember before I really grasped that occlusion, I would insert a beautiful case, and I know it's beautiful, but then I would go home and think, is this gonna last? Can I sleep tonight knowing that they're not gonna call me tomorrow morning? And now, knowing how to protect it long term just makes it a lot easier to practice.
Just to have like a simple protocol to go through. Like I don't like to occlusion obsess. You know, I really love aesthetics, you know, but I want to know what I need to know to be able to perform my aesthetic cases. And for me, you know, it's just those simple tips that you can walk away from, you know, when delivering aesthetic cases, like the shim stock pull technique that we use when we're delivering anterior aesthetics. You know, can we pull shim stock through the anteriors? That's just those simple tips for us help these cases last in our offices, and you know, just some of the occlusal things that get unraveled as you go through it and understand the philosophies of what makes things last. It's just, it's been super beneficial for me to just do more cases in our practices.
I think to summarize what everybody's saying is clinical mastery has really given me the intersection of competence and confidence to be able to do what I want to do and to be the best and to give my patients the very best.
Could you say that all again?
Seriously? Okay. Okay. To summarize what everybody's saying, CMS has really given me confidence along with competence to do my best for my patients and to do the dentistry that I really want to do.
You know, it's like we look around, like what brought us here this weekend together? You know, we're doctors who've come together. Some of us practice close to one another, 5 miles apart. You know, we're the same way across the couch there. Eric practices in basically the same town that I practice in. But dentistry brought us all together because dentistry, it's really amazing. We all love it. And we all feel the camaraderie that dentistry offers us. And, you know, I think what's really sad about a part of our profession is there's so many people out there who, you know, they're solar practitioners, that might go to the local component society meeting, you know, and it's filled with people who feel like they're in competition with one another because, you know, maybe they don't practice from abundance, maybe they practice from, you know, scarcity. And they're worried that, you know, there's only, you know, we're all trying to market to that one patient who's gonna come in and get a smile design, or that one patient who's gonna come in and have, you know, us do their implants. But, you know, what we know is that even though we can be in competition with one another, there really is no competition because we are in this camaraderie. It's a different C word. It's not competition, it's camaraderie. And, you know, what's really amazing is that, and what I love about CMS is really helping spreading that camaraderie. It's really bringing dentistry together. It's, you know, having people understand that a rising tide floats all boats. And, you know, once we all practice better together, you know, really patients benefit from it. It's really about changing lives. That's what we do. We change lives. We change dentists' lives. We change patients' lives. And there's so much out there and so much to share. It's just really a fun place to be and fun to be part of.
I would love to add to that. So yeah, John, you and I met playing poker at a local endodontist's house party kind of thing, and you know, we met, we hung out. You told me you were taking a course on occlusion. I knew nothing about occlusion at the time, and I figured, you know what, I'll give this guy a shot. I have no idea who he is. I never heard of him. Turns out he was part of CMS, and he knew a lot, and it was just so nice that you were so willing to share all the information, knowing you were literally less than 5 minutes away. You know, there's so much competition, people trying to steal each other's patients, yet CMS creates this camaraderie where he was willing to share this information to the guy that's 5 minutes down the street, where I could refer patients to him, he could refer back, and it helps build that camaraderie, like you said, across the country, across state lines, in the same zip code. You know, and you really don't see that everywhere else. You don't see, you know, education programs where you're going to have someone call you up and say, Eric, how'd that case go? Can I come help you? You can bring that to my office and I can show you. I had another faculty member come to my office so I could show them implants. I'm going to her office to learn about sleep apnea. So it's just nice, this well-rounded sharing of knowledge and mentors that really want to build the field and build each other.
Truly
I think
supporting each other.
Truly supporting each other.
Yeah.
Can I add to that? I think we all understand that this is not about us. We all got into this field for a reason, and it's to help people. It's about our patients. And if Eric, who's right down the street from me, can help me to practice better and to help my patients, he is helping that patient through me.
Well, and I feel like you made this exact point too. It's like we love to talk about like protocols or systems or processes, but you know what? It's like I know sometimes I'm going to have someone that like something's going to go weird, and having the ability to reach out to John or Jason or any of you guys in a pool of, you know, more rehabs done or veneers done than any one practitioner and say, hey, what's going on with this? And know I have that lateral support is something that I guess I really have appreciated over the years.
I think what we do great as a group, not talking about us as a group, you know, I just think the uniqueness is that not that we're passionate about dentistry, you know, not that we like what we do. It's just we authentically really enjoy the process of dentistry. We enjoy what we do in our offices, and we have that bit of enthusiasm that I think is unique. And I feel like recharged hanging out with you guys for a weekend. Like I need that in my practice, because I get into my practice and I get kind of lost into, you know, a patient struggle that I have. And then after a few weeks, I'm like, you know, I start to lose that little edge that I have that I think that it makes me special when my patients come into my practice. And so when I get back to a clinical mastery meeting, I get like refueled again. And it feels like selfish to me that I do what I do because I get so much out of it. But I think that's what kind of makes it special. And so I would always keep doing this, because if I didn't have this component to dentistry, then I wouldn't be the same practitioner that I am in my own practice.
You know what's a really important part about
I can do dentistry that is patient-centric and not procedure-centric. CMS has given me the ability to just communicate and to create the relationships with my patients that create trust and engage my patients. They understand the why, and I don't feel like I'm selling dentistry. I feel like I'm giving my patients options. There's no right or wrong. It's what works for them, and it gives them what they need so that they're happy, and at the end of the day, I'm fulfilled. Like, I love what I do because I feel good about it now. And, I don't feel like there's, black and white, right or wrong. Every day is different, and it just has opened up a whole new world of just awesome things that we get to do every single day.
How does that feel? It feels so good. It feels so good to not have to sweep something under the carpet, under the rug. When somebody comes in and they have something, an issue with the temporomandibular joint or muscle pain or tooth-related issues, if you don't know the answer, you don't feel like you know the answer competently, you sweep it under the rug. You ignore it, or you say it's not a big deal if the patient brings it up because you don't have a good solution for that. And that's not what's the best thing for a patient. And we know that, and that's unsettling. Like, that doesn't feel good to me to do that to a patient. And, to me, to us, it's worth it, to go through a continuum, obviously, just to be able to answer those questions for our patients and know what the first step is. Because you have the support. We have the support in this group if we don't know all the answers, but you know the first step. So you can take that first step, and that's working out the way it's supposed to. You take the second step, because we know what the second step is now. And I'm not sure about the third step now. Well, you have that lateral support. I'll call you. I'll call John. I'll say, dude, hey, I'm not sure what to do next on this patient. This is a little bit beyond even what I know. But we have forums for that. We have groups for that to take it to the next level. And we have even more extended courses to be able to understand more about it. So that's one thing for me, and I know for us, that it feels really good just to be able to answer patients' questions and not sweep things under the rug.
You know what, Jason? I was thinking as you were talking about one of the tools that I use in the operatory with a patient, and one of the things that I learned actually at Clinical Mastery, and it's made such a difference to my practice, which I didn't know existed as something I could use, is the use of photography to communicate with patients. And I'm not only talking about showing before and after photos. Like, just yesterday, I showed a patient a photo of themselves, of their own smile, and was able to talk the person through consultation with where they are and where they want to be, and they scheduled treatment from there, just by being able to see their own starting point and understanding that I can see their vision for where they want to get. And these are tools, like I said, that I did not even know could be so impactful in my practice. It's made such a difference to me and my team.
Often people don't know where they are. They don't realize the disease process, or they don't know where they can get to, and how photography can just, picture's worth 1,000 words sometimes. The opportunity to show, this is what I'm seeing. This is what I'm seeing. What do you want looking at your smile? Where do you want to take this?
And if you ever question being able to implement that in your practice, Clinical Mastery provides the support with MLab. So if you need that extra help, there's a coach there who can come in and help guide you and help implement it. And you don't feel like you're the weight of everything is on you. You have the support to be able to bring that to your practice if that's what you want.
And Nat, I also love how you said the patient's vision. That's something that's so easily missed in dentistry because we think of our mission, why we're doing things, why educators are teaching things, when ultimately it comes down to what's the patient's vision, what do they want? And like you had said, you got the support from MLab. they really help you and your team find out the patient's vision. And ultimately, it's the patient's vision or their desires that's the foundation for everything we do. It doesn't matter what we want. It's ultimately showing them and teaching them through photography, through the verbiage we learn at Mastery Lab, that helps us find that and really, dial it in to help us, do what we want to do for them.
If I can even add to that, one of the things, just to combine a lot of what I'm hearing from you guys and gals talk about is, using photography, but it's not even just about using photography for smiles. It's using photography for the disease process, because patients, don't really see what do their tops of their teeth look like, especially in their maxillary arch. They have no idea. So being able to show them that, and then as Lauren and Eric talked about, being patient-centric and what is it the patient want, being able to ask patients questions. So some of the tools that I use to practice that way is really helping understand, where is the patient at? What are their goals? Patients don't typically come in and say, yeah, absolutely, give me 10 veneers, or I want a full mouth reconstruction. Does it happen once in a while? Absolutely. Now, where I'm at now, it does. But where I started out 20 years ago, absolutely, that did not happen. And, I did a lot of cosmetic dentistry, but that was because I talked to the people about it. It was functionally driven, showing them the disease process, asking them questions, having them, one of the biggest tools was having them rate their smile on a scale of 1 to 10. That was always one of the game changers in my practice that I learned, early on with clinical mastery in my education. Because whether or not they rated a 1 or rated a 9, it's still not a 10. And most patients are going to offer, what do they want to get at a 10, whiter, straighter, and then that opens the door to have the conversation to what we can do for them in our practices to really help, them get to the level of health or aesthetics, that they want.
I think an easy, simple question to ask my patients is, how can I help you? A lot of patients have never been asked that by a dentist. And it can actually be really profound. It's an open-ended question that can really start some pretty awesome conversations.
I'm not going to really go into what question am I asking. I'm really going to go into how and who's saying it. Some dentists are great. They connect and they can just get a question out right there, super quick. Some really, if you can build the right team, can have the team ask those questions for you. And for me, it goes into finding out the why. So a lot of times I'll have my team focus on how can we get what's the most important thing to a person, what's their motivating factor, and which question they ask to get there doesn't really matter as long as they can lead me into the connection. So as soon as I can walk in the room and feel like I'm already connected in 5 minutes instead of taking an hour, that's the most impactful, because ultimately the patient is the reason why we're there. The why behind what we're doing in dentistry is trying to really make a difference in a person's life, and we can do that. It may, the thing I think that motivates a lot of us into staying away from our families for the weekend, traveling to Buffalo, New York, or somewhere you probably don't even want to be at to take some of these courses, is to change someone's life. It's not necessarily about us saving a tooth anymore. This is more comprehensive. It's beyond that. It's now saving a person's smile, on a good day. On a great day, we're saving a person's life, And that's the reality of it, is we're making such a bigger difference than just teeth or just dentistry nowadays, that as soon as we can realize the why behind not only what the patients want, but the why behind we're doing things and the why behind our team is supporting what we do, you know what I mean? Because it's asking the team a lot to go to some of these continuing education courses and things like that. And when you can get that why, not from the patient, from your team and from yourself, that's when everything just starts to click. And for me, it's no one single question that I've ever asked. It's just find the why. No matter how you get there, it's just find that driving force. And I really think that's what makes a big difference in my practice. And for me, it's the team that gets it for me. And that's a big part of that, the team building, team mastery. They've always done a great job at helping my team find those questions so that I can just dive right in and not have that awkward silence that dentists a lot of times have with a patient, because not all of us can just get that connection. So it's great when you can have your team ask the questions that you're taught, at a good educational series. It's just the fact that it's, fed to you, because if you can get the why, and then you can say, well, this is how I can get you there, then the problem's solved without any work. It's just simple, making it simple.
When I have a new patient come into the office, initially introducing myself and then asking them, of course, what brings you here today? Channeling that in a direction of, tell me your journey. What's your journey been? And that opens up that dialogue and what's been their challenges, what they want to move forward with. And I sometimes even take notes. I'll have a notepad, and every patient will tell you this. I'll take a notepad out, sometimes just to show them that I'm active listening, and I'll just take notes. And I literally write word for word what they say in my chart, because later when I'm helping them through a treatment plan and developing a treatment plan, I'll quote their words. Your goal was this was one thing, this was another thing. And it's keeping focused on what their objectives were. And at the heart of when they first came in, before I was educating them on the things that we were co-diagnosing, getting back to and making sure that we're attaching, all of our treatment plan steps toward their original points.
I love this topic of communication, and I love this topic of questions.
That's awesome.
And I'd like to share two things that have been super impactful and helpful when we talk about this. And it's the idea of open-ended questions. A question that you cannot answer with a simple yes or no. And I know, John, specifically, I caught on this concept when you recommended the book, Change Your Questions, Change Your Life. And a great example of that I used to ask, do you have any questions? Now I ask, what questions do you have? And it just allows the patient to open up and avoid answering a question yes or no. And then the last thing I'll share is a really good analogy that has really opened up conversations and changed my patient's mindset. When they come in thinking about single tooth dentistry and I need them to think about comprehensive dentistry, it's very, very simple for me. I use a reference of a symptom versus a real problem, the root cause. And I'll use the analogy of like a fever. If you have a fever, oftentimes that fever is a symptom, but it's not the real root cause. And when I relate that to their teeth, hey, your broken tooth is more like a symptom, I can immediately tell this light bulb changes in their mind, and I see them shaking their head.
It's the truth.
It's tooth.
Yeah.
And they say something extremely important. They say, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
A really big difference between that's right and you're right. When they say that's right, now they get it, and we have co-discovery together, and that analogy works great.
That is absolutely brilliant. I love that, Lee. One thing that I like to ask my patients, sort of along the same lines, is when we see, and for new patients, and when we see that they have a problem, I like to ask, would you like to prevent a crisis before it happens, or would you like to deal with the problems as they arise? And what that does in my practice, and something that I've noticed with a lot of doctors I've spoken to, is, if you don't ask a question like that, you almost don't know how much time to spend going into that comprehensive conversation with a patient. And so earlier in my career, I'd spend 45 minutes talking to somebody about something that they actually had no interest in because they really just wanted to deal with each problem one at a time. Whereas now, if I know that they want to prevent a crisis before it happens, that's a whole different time investment for myself and my patient, for a patient who wants to take care of themselves from top to bottom. So it really gives us an indication right off the bat of exactly what their goals are and how they like to treat their body.
That's cool. Yeah, when I'm in a consultation with a patient, I'm usually sitting in a chair like this one because I feel like I want to communicate with my patient just like I'm another person. So not like a dentist trying to solve problems, because when somebody comes in and we're speaking, I think dentists want to solve the problem, but I just want to talk to people like they're like another person, like we're just getting to know each other. And one of my favorite questions to ask somebody as we're getting to know each other is, how has this affected you? And I think that's maybe one of the hardest questions that I've had to learn to ask myself, because it's like a feeling-y question, and it just doesn't feel comfortable to ask other questions. And so when I ask somebody how it's affected them, then I start to understand more from their perspective, what struggles they've had with this concern and what things they've had to deal with. And it really changes the mindset to more of an emotional mindset. And believe me, I understand, like when you go to the dentist, right? I mean, you're thinking about anything else besides the issue that caused the phone call for you to call in the first place. So you're thinking about, is it going to hurt? How much does it cost? Am I even going to like this dentist, this person I'm meeting, or this team? And when we change the mindset and ask that question that focuses more on the emotion, how has this affected you? It gives me the ability to create more solutions around what the real issue is. So I'm really speaking to people on the same language, and it just helps us see things eye to eye a little bit better.
I think for me, yeah, I know I spent like the earliest years being a dentist maybe frustrated when a patient wouldn't do something or why they wouldn't fix something. And I think realizing that really our only responsibility is to the truth, and then they can pick what they want to do, is kind of liberating. And that, every new patient or even existing patient, having the ability to ask them or say, I can go and we can fix, a tooth whenever I see a decay on it, or a broken restoration or a broken tooth, and I can fix that. Or we can go and talk about, every single tooth, and potentially doing it once, at one time, and laying out a plan for you. And that's their choice. And whatever they choose, it becomes a very comfortable thing, because it's no longer an adversarial, why don't you fix your tooth? It's knowing, okay, well, that doesn't work for them right now, maybe one day. So right now we're fixing this tooth. Or maybe it's, a lot of times we hear, well, I didn't know I could do that, or I didn't know that I could do all these teeth at one time. You mean I don't want to do one a year or two a year because of my insurance? It's like, no, you can do all of them now, And I think I learned to not assume what they know, not assume what they want, and, let them choose.
Yeah, good points. I think it's very important to ask really good questions, but like Josephine said, I think it's really important to also listen to our patients, and really, because they're not used to that. A lot of the dentists that they have seen before, they haven't sat down with them and really listened to them and allowed enough time to hear what they have to say. So really listen to them and write it down, like Josephine said, and say it back to them so they know that they have been heard and that what they really want you to address.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from what I hear from everyone is, number one, we all should be going in, not just starting out giving patients answers to problems or solutions that they didn't even know they needed to have. So it's really important to start asking questions. I mean, one of the questions that I said earlier that I use is, you're here, you're in my practice, and we want to make sure that we exceed your expectations. So knowing that, how would you rate your smile on a scale of 1 to 10? So this way we can answer that question for them and help them exceed the expectations of what we're having in their practice. So I think most importantly it is, and even Eric talked about it, it's knowing where the patient's at. In order to know where they're at, we have to ask questions to understand where they're at so that we can help them. What can I do for you? Why are you here today? All of those things are so important so that we can then talk to the patient, deliver the solutions that they want now, because they might not be ready for comprehensive dentistry, but then continuing that questioning process as they come in for the recall appointments, so that when they are ready, we have that opportunity available to us. So I think it's so important.
The one thing that I cannot practice without, I do like my Optragate, like that's pretty fun. But without a doubt, it would be the awesome support and the beautiful work that I receive from my lab. You know, it's just so comforting to know that my Pete is just a phone call away. And if he's not there, there's someone else who can pick up the phone and help me through whatever questions or struggles that I might have. It's just, you know, like I said, so comforting and gives me peace of mind to know that I just have like amazing support and I'm giving my patients like the best dentistry that I possibly could.
I have every toy that exists. I have 5 printers, 2 T-scans, a JVA. If it exists, I tell people I have it. I'm milling, and it makes dentistry work great. It makes it more predictable, makes it more fun. But one of the things that I think is crucial is realizing that it doesn't always solve everything. Sometimes you need, like for me, a coach, because dentistry, all dentists say what's the hardest part about dentistry is it's dealing with people and team and staff and things like that, and having a coach being able to walk you through something like that. Like for me, Mastery Lab is one of the toys, so to speak, that I have that, you know, can help me not only communicate with my team, but my wife, my kids, and things like that. So I think ultimately it's more than just a toy. It's something that helps you utilize them and utilize your team and just make things work better for you as a whole beyond dentistry, you know, because toys are ultimately just toys, and I have them, but they're toys.
So I couldn't agree more. I mean, my goodness. I find myself, and I don't know if you all are the same way, but I find myself reaching for, my mirror, of course, and my intraoral camera. I use that thing as much as I use a handpiece or a mirror. I find I take photos of, little things that I see. My iTero scanner, I'll take a scan and I'll show the patient. So it brings back a little bit into that communication part, right? And, I'll throw the photo up, or I'll bring the scan up and we'll look at it, and we'll point out recession that we see or abfractions that we see or occlusal disease, evidence of things, and it's a conversation point as well as documentation for future treatment planning and disease process, little cracks here and there. I'm always reaching for those. Oh.
Awesome. I have invested a lot in myself, and I haven't invested a lot in equipment. The biggest return on investment that I have found is when I invested in my team. I think, Eric, you mentioned earlier, it's not what if I invest in my team and they leave. It's more about what if I don't invest in my team and they stay. So the return on investment that I've gotten once I made that decision that was important has been just huge.
Awesome. I agree with all of you. And I have to say that the most valuable $10 piece of equipment in my practice is a leaf gauge. I mean, getting a predictable bite on every patient and having my team being able to use something that is so, so simple, because while I'm a complicated person and I love complexity and I love knowing details and all of that, there is nothing better than being able to provide your dentistry with simplicity. And so that's one of my most valuable $10 pieces of equipment.
My bad. Oh, so I guess I couldn't live without my phone. I guess it would be the phone, I would say. Sorry. And in all honesty, I would say, if I was saying what could I not live without, it would be the creative process. I know it sounds crazy to say like it's a process, but I jokingly talked to my team. I said, listen, at this point, really, I just want to take their money and take their picture. And that's it. Everything else in between I'm okay with, but let's just get these 2 things. But in all honesty, if the creative process didn't exist, I just wouldn't be into it. You know, I love the whole process of taking their picture, you know, taking to the beach to do that, you know, editing things in Keynote, into Photoshop, into Lightroom. This is the whole part of the process of being creative is what keeps me glued into what I do every day. And I look at it in terms of like, if I do something and I spend all this time and energy into doing something aesthetic for somebody, and they could be like super happy with it. But if I take the picture at the end and it doesn't look that great, that to me, that's like a fail. If I can't look at the after picture or take great pictures of it when I'm done and it doesn't look absolutely amazing, and I can put that on my phone, you know, throw it to social and be proud of it, then, you know, I'm like, that was like a wasted case for me. So everything that I do is really with the intent that when I'm done, I'm gonna be able to take some great images of it and I'm gonna be proud of it.
I mean, if you ask my patients, they may say that I couldn't practice without good drugs. And by that, I mean, you know, a lot of who I see are patients that have been, you know, avoiding a dentist for like a decade or 20 years or longer. So we do a lot of sedation dentistry. But, no, I would say really it all comes back to probably a camera and then even just laying out what their options are and communication with not only words but visual is so big for most people.
My number one would be my team, but since Lee took that one, so my other number one would be my loops and my light. I could not do what I do without being able to see what we have to see.
You guys, this is such a great topic, but I'm just gonna be honest for a minute. And, you know, I personally, I could not practice without nitrous oxide. That's really, yeah, because, you know, those of you who know me, I'm a health nut, so I eat a lot of protein, heavy foods. All right, so you guys all said some amazing things, but you know, I couldn't practice without all of you. No, but in all honesty, in all honesty, electric handpiece. I mean, loops is absolutely, you know, key. I would cancel out a day without my loops, but I would never want to prep a full mouth reconstruction without an electric handpiece. That's definitely a key part of my practice.
And rocking the drill.
And rocking the drill.
Rocking the electric drill, maybe that's what we need to change it to.
You know, I have always naturally been drawn to mentorship. I love going to camp, and I want to be a camp counselor. Like, if I could be a professional camp counselor, I would be. And that's the way I look at this group. You know, it's just such a special thing to be able to watch someone's journey and to help them grow, and, you know, just to help them work through some of the struggles that maybe I've worked through in my career. And that just fills me up and gives me energy and just, you know, makes it all worthwhile.
Why do I do what I do? I like to be a mentor because it really helps you make a difference and change people's lives. I mean, dentistry can be boring, in all honesty, if you're doing single tooth dentistry. But when you get to a point where you're going beyond that and seeing the bigger picture and changing patients' lives, then you start helping change your team's lives. And then you realize that you still only have so much reach. But when you start mentoring people and then they can start having reach with their patients and their teams and their families, then you realize how much bigger an impact you can make. So I think it's more about, you know, broadening the spectrum. And also it's absorbing, I think, because, you know, you go to these classes and as a mentor, sometimes you learn more than you're teaching because you learn so much from the students that,
Always.
you know, it's crazy. It's just sharing the knowledge.
I love the aha moments, you know, like that just charges me up, you know, when you see somebody just, wow, you know, I've been wondering, or how do I, you know, they've been struggling with something, or it all makes sense, you know, or how they can integrate something into their practice. That energy, that transfer of energy, it just, as you said, it just charges you, it fuels you, it gives you the energy. You know, you almost feel guilty about that, right? But it's so wonderful to see to see others become passionate again, kind of what made them want to do dentistry to begin with, and then propel that and transfer that energy to their teams, their house, in their home, their families. Everyone feels that ripple effect. It's such a gift to be a part of it.
I often get the question of not why, but how. How do you do what you do? Multiple practices, family, traveling with CMS, and I relate it back to my why. And that is the fulfillment of enjoying seeing other people succeed. When you help other people find success, that is a much more of a driver of my why, because there's no greater fulfillment that I have found than helping others find success.
I 100% agree with every single one of you. And the reason that I do kind of goes back to my own story. And my own story is that you guys did that for me. So I came from a place of frustration and really transformed my practice and team's practice. And when I see that we do that for other people, it's exactly what you said. It's the aha moments. It's the helping other people succeed. It's the making a difference. And it's really knowing what it felt like to go from there myself and to get to here. And so if I can give that back in dentistry, then I selfishly feel awesome.
I feel very similarly as you do. I'm here for the culture. I took a lot of CE, and it was uninspiring. I listened to people tell me about how it should be done, and if I did it a different way, I was doing it wrong. And I'd go back to practice, and not much would change. And it wasn't until I was inspired, not even so much by the educator, but by the culture of the group I was surrounding myself with, that I went back to practice, and I enjoyed what I was doing every day. And I need to be a part of that culture.
I think, kind of exactly what you said, Nada. Like, I know how much it meant for me, like going through and being mentored and the change it made, that, it's not just making someone or helping someone be a better dentist or a better practice. The end result of it is a better leader of, a team of people, a husband or a better mother, or really just a better life through education.
Same for me as for most of you. When I first started on this journey, I feel like I was very lost, and I had to reach out so much to John, especially, and he's been there for me so much in the beginning, and it helped my confidence, and it helped my practice grow so much, so that if I can do a little bit of John and a lot of you have done for me, for somebody else, that would be very fulfilling.
I heard some amazing things that we just shared, for everybody who's out there. And, just like Nada said, when I went through dental school, dental school learning was just, like Jason too, it was uninspiring. It was made to feel hard. It was made to feel complicated. And, if my whole reason for getting involved in teaching was to really let everyone understand there's a simpler process. But not only that, because there are a lot of competitions out there, it's really for them to understand, and why I'm here and doing it is to have people know that I care about them and I care about their success. Because I think a lot of people are putting on programs and they're untouchable after the lights go out, and they're not there on weekends to answer emails. And in general, they're not there to ensure the success of the participant. So I'm there not only to do all of what we all shared with, the inspiring part, let's get inspired for them, let's have them do all this stuff, let's make it simpler for them, but really to have people who come to our courses to understand that we care about them. That's why I do what I do.